everybody. Welcome to our December webinar series. I'm Becky Schwartz. I am one of your co-facilitators of our webinar series. I teach at Springport High School in Springport, Michigan. I teach 10th and 12th grade English. I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy, who's going to introduce himself, and then he's going to introduce our fantastic guest presenter tonight, Lindsay Young, who has a really exciting presentation on choosing your own adventure.
Well, thank you, Becky. My name is Jeremy Heiler. I was formerly a classroom teacher for 21 years in the middle school level, teaching 6th through 8th grade English. I am now a manager of educational partnership for the Center for the Collaborative Classroom. And I get to do lots of wonderful work with teachers, such as Lindsay. And Lindsay does an awesome job of teaching because I got to see her teach in person. So I'm going to hand it over to our presenter, Lindsay, as she talks about choosing your own adventure tonight.
All right, thank you for that fabulous introduction. I appreciate it. So I am going to share my screen this time. So back up here. So I'll be presenting, like I said, about creating a choose your own adventure. So this is how I teach overall the unit. And then I will at the end kind of teach you guys about different ways you can make it into a game and have students create a game along with the unit. So my name is Lindsay Young, like they said. I teach at North Branch Elementary School, and I am a 3rd and 4th grade teacher. And this is my email and my Twitter. So my contentions. Biggest thing, students have a right to read authentic text. So within this project, we'll be reading a lot of choose your own adventures, so students can understand choose your own adventures. When you write in a genre, you should read in a genre. Students have the right to make choices about their learning. So within this, they'll be able to make choices about about the safe choices, dangerous choices, what they're researching. So lots of different opportunities for different aspects of choices. Activities should be engaging to students and encourage collaboration. So students get to cooperate with their learning and are engaged and collaborate within this project as well. Students should also be given the opportunity to write in a variety of genres. So within this, students are doing informational writing and narrative writing. So it's incorporating different aspects of genres. And then students should be given the opportunity to develop their research skills. So within this, students are not only writing narratives, they're also having to do research as well. So they're actually using evidence and research within their choose your adventure. So lots of different aspects that go into the project. So within this choose your adventure genre, normally I would have the students start by looking at genres, and actually these are 2 games I created to show them kind of what the end product could look like. So I would always start with what do you notice, what do you wonder in a choose your own adventure, and then what experiences they've had with the choose your own adventures, just to get a little background on what they've experienced. So at this time, if you guys want to look at the different choose your own adventures, and if you want to, in the Pear Deck, write down what you notice and wonder. I'll give you guys a few minutes to look it over and see what you guys notice and wonder about the choose your own adventure. And what's cool about Pear Deck, because that's what we're using, I could see everyone's responses, so it kind of tells you what they notice and wonder within it. So when students are either virtually or in a classroom, you can see how students are responding to whatever you put into the Pear Deck. So this is just another application that's through Google that you can use. I like to even use it within the classroom. I use it quite often. The students really like to see what other students responded with, and even kind of be engaged that way in a virtual way. So this is just another application you can use as well. So, all right. So I see that someone answered, I notice that no matter what I do, I seem to die in the zombie one. And I feel you, I always use to die in the zombie one. And I can show you guys what these look like for my people that are watching this from home here. So I'll show you what these look like. So in the Chasing Storms, this is kind of a final product and what it could look like. Loading here, giving it a minute. There we go. So these will be shared in there. I actually use Poundtune to make different videos to go along with the scenarios. And then within it, they can actually go through and read the scenario and choose whatever choices they want. So this is actually an interactive game that I made through Google Slides. So I have the students actually play this. They would be noticing and wondering as they're doing the activity. So This is just a different way of doing it, and this could be one of the final products that a student makes. And I had actually students use Poundtoon as well, which is a free application online where you can have little videos and put together the kind of storyline within Poundtoon, which the students really had fun using. So highly recommend that. So that is the first part of how I do the unit. So I start with them studying the genre, and then I go into, let me get back to here. The planner. So now within this, we go through, and I have this all laid out for them, the Choose Your Own Adventure planner. And this is kind of how I structure the unit. We start with the introduction. Then we get into the character's backstory, setting the scene, and then we get to the last part, choices. So this is kind of, it's all structured out this way. So this is also included in the slideshow that you'll have access to. This is something my students use to actually create their Choose Your Own Adventures. So it's a planning guide. These are kind of bookmarked to get you to the area. So we start with the introduction, choosing character's background for their topic, getting into the dangerous risks, choosing a location, and kind of going into the introduction that way. And this is the example. So I like to show students example that I made so they can use that to create their own. Then we get into the character's backstory. So this kind of leads into why are they here, like what got them into this field they're doing. Maybe they're going to decide to do storm chaser. Why do they want to become a storm chaser? I did the idea of becoming a biotechnician. So they would get into working in the wilderness and then encountering an animal. So this is kind of the story I went along with. But you could really make it whatever topic you really want to for Choose Your Own Adventure. This is just one way of doing it. So this would be the example I would use with students, but then they would have the opportunity to create their own backstories and do their own research on a character's backstory and background. And then part 3, setting the scene. So this is kind of getting into the introduction, which sets the scene to then get to the choices. So again, there's that research aspect of it. So they'd have to bring research into this somehow. Either they do it with their jobs that they actually chose, or do it with the locations that they decided to have their story take place in. And then they're obviously citing their work. And then last but not least, we get to the choices. So they would actually have this, we would study this kind of overall structure, and I kind of give them a glimpse into what a structure could look like. But again, I want them to have choice in what they do. So they would create their own structure of how they want their Choose Your Adventure to look like. And then it leads to the different choices. So this is kind of what part of the unit I'm going to zoom into, is how I would teach the choices unit. And then you'll have an opportunity to create a mini Choose Your Own Adventure. So let me go back to my slides here. So like I said, we're going to get into specifically how I teach the unit of choices. So what I'd like you to do is look at this. I would do this with my students. Look at this organizer, and I want you to write down, what do you notice? What do you wonder? So why is it organized the way it is? What do you notice about how it's organized? What do you notice about what the labels say? What do you think it means? So I'm going to give you guys about a minute to write down what you notice and wonder about this organizer. Okay, so does anyone want to share out what they noticed about the organizer?
Sure, I'll jump in here real quick.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that one of the interesting things about this, and partially because I was just having a conversation with another colleague about computational thinking and branching logic and things like that, and teaching that in ELA, I could see that, there might be a mini lesson or a one-day lesson here just in teaching them about if-then statements and branching logic and stuff like that. So there could be a little computational thinking piece, but then more related to the writing, just helping them. We always encourage students in brainstorming to come up with all these ideas, Well, this would be a chance for them to actually put those ideas into action, because you've got at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, no, I guess 4 end results, right? So you've got 4 end results, but then you've got interim results that would happen along the way. And so just trying to help them continue it almost reminds me of the activity, the yes and, like, oh, yes, and this could happen. Yes, and that could happen. And so you could use it as a creative thinking exercise as well and really honor that brainstorming.
Mhm. Absolutely. No, I totally agree with you. I was even thinking, even bringing in like cause and effect into it. Like, this is the cause. What are the effects of this? And kind of bringing even that text structure into it, the informational text structure, which can also be incorporated into it. So this is something I would do with my students. I'd have them look at the organizer, kind of discuss like, oh, I noticed a lot of what you guys said in the responses, that they're all interconnected. I noticed one of them branches off and there's no continuation on it. And then we would discuss kind of what that means. What could that look like? How do you think that applies to choose your own adventure? And then we'd actually get to looking into the mentor texts. So on the next slide here, this will lead us to a concept board. So what I normally would want the students to do, and I've done this, they're going to read a few mentor texts, and I have a few on here. One of the excerpts from Storm Chasing, Zombie Apocalypse, and Can You Survive the Wilderness? I'd have the students create sticky notes under each kind of each mentor text, and I would have them write down, what do they notice about the choices? What do you wonder about the choices? And what will we do in our choose our own adventures? So I'll have you guys do that too. So if you could read through some of these choose your own adventures, and then you can put sticky note, write down what you notice and wonder on the sticky notes. The sticky note is the one that's marked on the slideshow. It's kind of circled. It's the one that's a square with 3 little lines in it. You just do that guest access. And this is something, again, I would do with my students. I'd want them to read through these. We would study within the mentor text, and we would compare how do they look similar? How do they look different? How can I apply this to my choose your own adventures? So I'll give you guys 2 minutes to go through and read through some of the choose your adventures. You can choose whatever ones you'd like, and then write down what you notice and wonder about the choose your adventure, and specifically in the choices. What do you notice about the choices? All right, so that's kind of what I would do with my students. So they would have a chance to read through these. And some of the things I would want them to notice is that within like our first scenario about can you survive the wilderness, that there is really kind of the safe choice, right? There's a safe choice of, okay, I'm going to stay away from the cubs. And then there's this dangerous choice that's only like, I'm going to get closer to the cubs. And in this case, one of them you don't survive, the other one you kind of go along safely and you make it. So that's kind of the biggest thing I want students to notice. And also even perspectives wise, like it's written in the first, or I'm sorry, second person, because it's saying you may never get a chance like this again. And then also within this as well, in the chasing storms, there's also times where it might be that you're not injured in the choice. It's a choice that'll maybe lead you to a different location. So it's not always a case where it's going to be this end where you don't survive and the one you will make it. So it just kind of depends on how the students want to build theirs, but I definitely would have them research this, study this, and then go into creating the choose your adventure and doing the notice and wonders. And some questions I've gotten in the past about this, kind of along the lines of student questions, they were wondering, how do I get some ideas of like how to do a safe choice, or how do I know what's a dangerous choice? And that kind of gets into the research aspect of it. So we would actually then, after this activity, we would go through and actually research. So I'd want the students to bring in research about their topic. So in the past, I've done it on students researching animals. So for a safe choice, dangerous choice. So they would actually go into researching about the animal specifically and what you should do if you encounter the animal, or what should you do if you should you run, should you climb up a tree? So that would kind of go into the safe choice and dangerous choice. So they would actually research into this so they know what choices would make the most sense in it. Let me go to my next slide here. And then after, we would create research questions. So I don't want to just tell them like, oh, this is what you need to research. We would actually use that to then come up with research questions. So this would lead to, okay, what does a safe choice look like? What does a dangerous choice look like? It could be along the lines of, what does my animal do? What's its defense mechanism? Like how does it react? But if you're making it more broad, it's just based on the topic they do. But overall, they normally is like a safe choice, dangerous choice. It even could be like what locations would make the most sense to do with my topic. So I would want the students create their own questions. I don't want to just give them the questions. I think it's important that they come up and inquire questions based on what we've come up with and what we decided makes a choose your adventure. So they would actually create research questions on this. Then last but not least, we would actually start writing the choose your adventure. So what I like to do is have you guys create like mini choose your own adventures. So this is kind of a mini choose your own adventure planner. So if you click on that, it'll bring you to a mini choose your own adventure. So if it loads here, there you go. So based on different activities, so the cougar, black bear, wolf, I would have you guys create a choose your own adventure. I know we have kind of limited time today, so I won't have us get too much into this, but normally I'd have, this could even be something you do as a mini activity to have them practice, or even use this kind of a formative assessment to see if they understand like a choice 1 and 2. So if you want to give them the research and see if they can take research and actually practice making this would be a good activity just to even do as a check-in to say, okay, are they understanding how to use research and create the scenario, do choices, and then create choices. So I think this would be interesting even to use as kind of a formative assessment while you're teaching it to make sure students understand it. So that could be what you could use for this. And then they could take that back, this kind of practice, and take this back and actually use it to create their own choose your adventures and their own choices based on the topic that they chose. So this could be used as an interesting practice to see if they understand it. And it's kind of a performance practice. And I will tell you right now, the students' favorite part in this was creating the choices, especially the choices where you don't make it. They loved killing off their character. It was probably their most favorite part out of the entire project. And they came up with some very creative ways to kill off their character. I will say that, like, super creative, very interesting how they killed off their characters. Like I did this during the time we had to be virtual because of COVID. And I think I stayed on after for about like 45 minutes because they all wanted to share how they killed off their characters. So if you want to motivate students in writing, like, this is the way to do it, to kill off the characters. But again, this would be, could be used as a formative assessment. And they also have a lot of fun with it. So they wouldn't see it as an assessment. So just another way of taking in and using this. And then the final product. So after we've done the research, we've done the planning, we take this and we're actually going to then create a choose your own adventure game. So there is a couple ways you can do this. So these are some tools I've used. Google Slides is how I did it when I was virtual. I did all this unit when I was virtual with students. So we use Google Slides because that was what they're most familiar with. This would probably be the easiest way of doing it with Google Slides, but I've been researching into other ways or other applications you can use. Another really good one to make a choose your own adventure is Visme. That is another tool that's kind of a video tool, and I think it turns out looking a lot better. So if you click on the Google Slides mini choose your own adventure, it's very nicely laid out where students just kind of put in their information into it. Now that they wrote it, they can put in their information. So this is just an example. So if I put it into present mode, so this kind of leads to the wolf encounter. So this is an example of something I did. So you have on the four-wheeler, begin to walk towards the riverbank. And as you reach the river, at the corner of your eye, there's a dark figure. So this would be kind of the encounter. This would be the scenario 1. This would lead you to those choices. And then you can either remain still or choose to run. The students would then create links to these to then be able to get to their other ones. So then it would say, you know, remain still, this is what happens, then run to the nearest forest, this is what happens. And students would create these, they'd be able to put in their own photos, be able to just create the slides in general and make it the way they want to. This is one way of doing it. If students are familiar, or if you're familiar with Google Slides, this might be a way you want to go. But I was going to actually this year, we're going to be doing this at the end of the year, the choose your own adventures. I think I'm going to use something else. So let me go to my other one here. The other one is Visme. This is kind of a newer tool I haven't used too much yet, but I think the students have fun with it. The Visme mini choose your own adventure. So this is a video. So you could create a video, like a video. It kind of integrates videos into it, which I think would be fun for students to do. So this is what this one kind of looks like. And I guess it's more interactive. Like, I feel like you could do this with younger students. I'm going to challenge mine to try this. I'll give them two choices. I'm going to have them, if they would like to use Google Slides, they can use Google Slides, or if they want to challenge themselves more, they go to Visme. So I think it's good to give students choices, even with the technology they use, because I know I have students that are, you know, at different levels, varying levels. And I think some of them would benefit from using Google Slides and learning how to use Google Slides. And I think some of them could challenge themselves more and use Visme. So I'm going to be giving them a choice on what they want to use, but this would be kind of the final product. It looks like, yes, there's a sound effect. So that's kind of cool with it too. So it plays through your scenarios. It kind of creates a video, and you can do, it's the same concept. So they can stay still, you survive, to go back to last choice, run in the nearest tree. So this is just mini choose your own adventure. So these are just different applications you can use to make it. I did a lot of researching into the best kind of video ones. This is probably the easiest one to use. And I think it does everything you want it to do, because it creates video. It links you to your other slides. I would recommend Visme, using that one, and it's free too. So that's really nice. So you don't have to pay for it. All these applications are free. Let me go back to my presentation here. There we go. So this would be something I would have you guys do, creating a mini choose your own adventure as well, kind of practicing to see what you think. And then let me see. These are then my different mentor text I use, different videos, some student examples. So I have examples of what my students created. And actually, let me go back here. These are examples of things I've gotten permission for my students to share with you guys. This is one of the examples from Maggie from a Choose Your Own Adventure. So this is the entire Choose Your Own Adventure that the students created while they were virtual. So they had the introduction to it. So they have their job, then the location, and then setting the scene, background story. So this was exactly following the graphic organizer and what we use with the graphic organizer. And then again, setting the scene, getting into that, and actually introducing the scenarios. The students were able to link right to the slides. They actually did this themselves. So I did like screen videos or screencast to show them how to do it, and they were able to do it virtually on their own, which kind of created that independence for them, which I think was great. And then the choices, lead to all the choices, stay where you are. So they created all this. This student was extremely creative. She actually did a pound tune in one of them about black bear safety, which I thought was extremely creative, how she integrated this into it. She kind of did this on her own, which I think was awesome. So I'll show you guys, because I think it was amazing how she did this. I was like super proud of her. So that was kind of something she created, like bear safety tips, which I think would be an interesting thing to integrate into it too, to kind of create maybe a functional text. So there's just a lot of ways you can integrate other forms of writing or other genres of writing into this project. So I highly recommend it. The students had so much fun with it. So I highly recommend it for your classrooms. Like I said, I'm going to be doing this end of the year with my students, and having them be able to choose a different choose your own adventure or a different topic, but we'll definitely be studying the genres. Okay. And these are just my links that I use for everything. The create, shared, choose your own adventure story. Below are the slides you can use to teach it. So backstories, setting the scene, choices. This is my Choose Your Adventure student planner, so you have access to that. My templates for everything, the pound tune tutorials, linking slides, what I use with my students, Visme tutorial, a bunch of links to help you with if you want to integrate this into your classroom or do this with your students, which again, I highly recommend. They had so much fun with it. I think it's a great way to use instructional time and to teach students about different genres of writing. So highly recommend that. So is there any questions anybody has, or anything you want me to specifically show? I'll leave to you guys. So I didn't know if you want me to show Visme more, pound tutorial, or what you guys think, or if you have any questions.
Lindsay, the only question that kind of came to mind in terms of like logistics, and you said that you created a screencast for the kids to watch in terms of making links to their different slides. I'm just kind of curious, was there a learning curve with your students with that? Was that something that your kids struggled with? Just
No,
based on,
oh no, sorry.
no, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was gonna say not really. I created the tutorial and I said, if anybody wants to stay after with me, because this was when I was virtual, and have me specifically show you what this looks like. I think I had one, but the rest of them were able to independently do it on their own.
That's
So they're able
awesome.
to link their slides to different slides, and they're like, oh, I changed Miss Young. I changed this slide to go here, and I linked this, and they were showing each other. So they even like started like messaging each other to show each other how to do that. So I thought
That's
that was
awesome.
kind of taking that independence. So yeah.
That's really awesome.
We were just talking about what a master teacher you are in the chat, Lindsay. Jeremy was giving you some love just about how, when he was in your classroom a couple of weeks ago, just about how amazing it was that your students were talkative and productive, and how they listened to each other, and how, middle school and high schoolers struggle with that. And so we were just, we're blown away. And I had said that this, you've presented this unit a couple of different times to us in different things with CRWP, but just how organized and scaffolded and structured this unit is, that gives them so much choice and so much creative freedom, but still gives them those like stages that they can learn these. It's really incredible, this unit.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. And actually, during the summer, like Andy said something that like stuck with me about like the choices. He said, is this like, he kind of said something along the lines of like, oh, is this really giving them a lot of choice? And I kind of thought about it, and I was like, you're right. Like I shouldn't kind of keep it in this like, it has to be this, and you have to make an animal choice, you have to do an animal encounter. And I never even thought about, oh my gosh, why can't students make like different topics, like about any kind of choose your own adventure? And that was like so enlightening to me. And I'm like, wow, can't believe I didn't think of that. So I think it's interesting, even take that avenue of having this kind of be the example, but letting students really kind of create their own any topic, like choose your own adventure. Maybe they want to make a Minecraft choose your own adventure, as long as it's based on research, which technically there is research in Minecraft, and there's different avenues you have to do and different ways to take it, that it could really be really something awesome, and they could really put their own choice and their own interest into it. So
yeah. The animal ones reminds me a lot, Troy, of your Bill Bryson lesson, because there's the informational components to it as well as the narrative to it as well, which is, it really resonates with me. And I think that's a really good, move on your part, Lindsay, to bring both the informational and the narrative components to your students.
and I think it's interesting because it's so like, I guess it's really done in, I don't know, a very, I can't even think the word, interesting way, I guess, because the students don't even realize that like, oh, okay, narrative, there's research into it. We have to research because we have to provide like thinking as to why we're making these choices. And they just like, it's like they understand that, where it's not this like disconnected thing. It's like, oh, I have to research to make my informational. I don't need research when I do my narrative. It's like integrating that right into it. It's like, oh, to have choices and to actually understand that choices I'm having my character make, I need to do research on it. So it's this like nice integration where it's actually very natural for the students to understand why it's important, even in narrative, that there should be research going into it. So
you fooled them into learning.
that's right.
Where that's the best way it always happens, when you fool them into learning.
Oh, absolutely. Is there any other questions you guys have? All right. Well, thank you so much for letting me present. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate you going through and doing this again. And Becky said it before that you've done this before, but I always learn something new from it. So I've always got a new takeaway every time you present it. So I'm glad you were able to do it again and present it to us. And I'm sure that anybody that incorporates this into their classroom is going to have a lot of fun with it. And I think their students will too.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lot of fun. The students have so much fun. Again, killing the characters is their favorite part. They love entering and killing off their characters. And I just did not understand how in depth they could get about it and the details they could use. I was like thoroughly impressed. Holy moly. Ooh, get them engaged in writing, killing off characters is the way to do it. I'm telling you.
thank you so much for presenting this, Lindsay. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you for those of you who took some time out of your evening to spend with us. Hopefully you guys get some rest during this holiday break, and we'll be back with you in January. You guys take care. Bye.
See you, everyone.
Next one.